Alright everyone, the pain and suffering is over. It's time to rank the Hellraiser franchise, and as always, I will give just a couple of good and bad things if I can, because some of these don't have anything good about them. I'll give a couple of little bullet points of what I like and don't like about each one. I won't go on for 10 minutes about all of them. I have a review for every single one of these movies. They're like 20 minutes long each, so lots of content there, and I go into very great detail about what I like and don't like about all of them. I give them their fair day in court, and I will say that this franchise, I went into it blind. Like, this is the first time I've seen all of these, except for like one or two of them, and I thought they were all going to be complete trash, but only about half of them are trash. Some of them are okay, and a couple of them are great, so it's not that bad. If you haven't seen this franchise, I would definitely recommend the top 3 or 4 that I mentioned later on in the video. So let's start at the bottom. What is my number 10, I believe? There's 10 of these fuckers, and there's a reboot on the way, or a remake, by David S. Goyer, the writer for Dark Knight. At least that's what I heard. And that's been talked about forever, so who knows if that's ever going to be done. I feel like every franchise is going to be remade in the next 3 years. Yeah, Wrong Turn, Candyman, Tremors, Final Destination, you name it. I bet Nightmare on Elm Street's next, right around the corner. Scream just got announced. Holy shit. Victor Crowley 5. So many. This is a great time to be a horror fan. That is for sure. So, anyways, let's stop talking. Let's get back to what I came here to do. Number 10. What is it? No surprise here. Hellworld. This movie has nothing going for it that's interesting at all or entertaining. You could say this is so bad that it's a good movie, but there's nothing entertaining about it. Like, even the fact that it's bad, it's not entertaining. The characters, their decisions, the twist, and how it's set up, it's not even a twist. Was it supposed to be? Lance Hendrickson's in here. He's the only familiar face besides Henry Cavill, who later becomes Superman. And looking at his performance, you're like, how the hell did he ever become Superman? Lance Hendrickson seems to curse every film he's ever in. Like, any bad movie you watch, Lance Hendrickson is in it, except for Terminator. But he has like a very small role in that, so it's not like that's his film. But this movie has like nothing great about it. It's meta. Major sin right there. It's like they're trying to copy Scream and see the Chucky. Not a smart move at all. The kills are not interesting. The characters are horrible. Their fucking chemistry with each other. Are they boyfriend and girlfriend? Who the fuck knows? Who cares? There's nothing in here. There's boobs, and that's it. That was like the only positive I could give it. I can't say anything great about it. Pinhead in it is not even Pinhead. He's fucking a meta, like, oh, Pinhead's real, and then, wait, no, he's not. And then at the very end of it, he's real. Like, it's confusing. I don't want to talk about it. I do not want to talk about Hellworld anymore. Fuck this movie. It is the worst easily in this franchise, and I will never watch it again. Number 9 goes to Hellraiser Deader. This is part 7. This was shot back to back with Hellworld in Romania, and this one has a couple of decent things about it that I was able to look at and be like, oh, that's actually kind of cool or creepy, like the whole knife in the back scene. The main actress in this movie, she's done quite a few other franchises like The Prophecy, so she's got some acting talent. She's acted before. It's not like she's a no-namer. She's done quite a few horror movies, and I thought that she really carried this movie somewhat for me. I thought she was decent, but that's it. Like, she's the only decent thing about it, and just her reaction during the knife in the back scene, and when she finds that body in the bathroom, I thought that was creepy. But the story, and I can say that for all of these, almost all of them, the story I did not care for. And then they barely try to, like, they shoehorn this, like, this character who's supposedly, like, connected to these characters to try to, like, connect it to the timeline and keep it going. It's like, no, this is obviously its own thing. It was never a Hellraiser script, and they lazily made it a Hellraiser movie at the last second. This does not feel like a Hellraiser movie, and it isn't. Oh, and there's lots and lots of boobs in this one too, so if you're looking for that, you're going to find plenty. I think Deader has the most. There's chicks making out on a train, and they're like grabbing each other's breast, so yeah, there's that. So moving on. Number 8 for me is Hellraiser 2. Get your dislike button ready. I know people love this one for some reason. I don't get it. Yes, it's kind of a good, like, back-to-back watch, you know, like Halloween and Halloween 2. It does kind of go into the next like one goes into two very well because it's like the next night and she's at like Kirsty's at a mental institution. But once again, my problem with this movie is the story. Like it tries to quickly like redo part one with what's her face? I forget her name, Julia, with the whole like you gotta feed bodies to the bed and she comes to life. All that stuff was good and great and all, but it's just repeating part one. And then after that, it's all about this completely bland, not interesting, not scary looking Hellworld that looks like a painting. It doesn't, it's not aesthetically pleasing or creepy. There's nothing great about this film to me at all. I thought Kirsty was completely unneeded. Like her in the story, what was she there for? It's mainly about this girl who can't speak, so that's a fun character, a character that can't speak, like Danielle Harris in Halloween 5. Who wants that as a character? So we got this character who can't speak, who opens up the gates to the hell world for this crazy doctor who is just coincidentally at that hospital with Kirsty. There's things in here that are just plot conveniences, and there's characters that are useless or not needed, or they serve one tiny purpose, and then when they're not needed, they're just thrown away. And I just did not like this movie at all. It's such a steep decline in quality and enjoyment from the first one. Like the first one's a classic. It's great. You're gonna see it way higher on this list. But then after that, it's like 2 is just way down, and then 3 and 4 and 5 kind of go up for me. And then it's like a roller coaster ride. This franchise, it's like it starts at the top, goes straight down, and it kind of goes up a little bit. It's a very wonky franchise when it comes to quality. It's like some are good, some are trash, some are okay. But yeah, Hellraiser 2, Hellworld, did not care for this one at all. Pinhead's okay in it, but other than that, fuck, this was a rough one. Number 7 goes to Hellseeker, Mr. Mayhem. Dean Winters is in this one, and he even looks like Mr. Mayhem in this movie. He's got like the whole getup. He's wearing like the suit and tie. I just wanted him, and he like looks banged up. I just wanted him to start like saying like all state shit. Like it was just I could not stop thinking about that commercial when I was watching this movie. It was kind of distracting. But his character, not interesting. The whole story, once again, the whole movie's a fake out, just like part 8 and parts of part 7 and this one in part 5. After part 4, they all went into like this, single character going throughout the whole movie and then finding out everything's just a fake out or just multiple dream sequences. And it's very annoying. Part 5 did it good for me. And then at part 6, it was getting old. Part 7 and 8, I was fucking sick of it. They throw Kirsty into this movie, and she's basically the bookends of it. You get her a little tiny sliver at the beginning, and then she's at the end. And what this movie does is ruin her character and what you think of her. Like, she's the heroine, she's the hero, the final girl in part 1 and 2. And then you get this version of her, and you're like, oh, fuck that person. They make her spoiler alert, she's a murderer. And how can I support her now? So, major sin there. The CGI detective thing, that was awful. What were they thinking? And yeah, just fake out after fake out after fake out. Oh, he's been dead the whole movie. They could have executed it better. They could have made this movie more creepy. And maybe I would have liked it a little bit more. But Pinhead, he's barely in here. Once again, the script is not a Hellraiser script. So, Hellseeker, this is where you belong. Number 6 goes to the most hated film in this franchise, and I don't get it, and that's Revelations. Yes, Pinhead looks awful. He has like a butt chin, his voice, it's not working for me. And other than that, this movie, the characters, yes, it's very like small scale, low budget, one setting, unrealistic reactions from the characters, and the main 2 guys in this movie are complete assholes who go to Mexico to get laid, and then just you don't really care for them. But what works for me in this movie is that it feels like a Hellraiser movie. There's tons of graphic, like gore and just all that Hellraiser shit that you look for, that you saw in the first couple movies. It's back, baby, and I think it has some of the best special effects in the franchise. It has a very brutal third act. The way it ends, it's very dark. It goes there. It's pretty messed up. It has some what the fuck moments in it. And yeah, I don't see why people hate it so much. It's not a great movie by any means. It's still, I gave it a low score, but it's still, when I compare it to things I just talked about, I think this one's still way better than those. So Revelations, number 6. Number 5 goes to Hellraiser 3, Hell on Earth, the first 90s Hellraiser movie. This one is I think this was directed and written. This is the same guy that wrote part 2, right? So major step up. Major step up. Peter Atkins, I believe. And this one is basically the weirdest, like, it's the most slapsticky, like, I don't want to say slapsticky. It's the most, like, pun-filled and, like, one-liners. Like, this is when Pinhead becomes, like, a slasher, and he's, like, on the streets of New York and just causing hell. He's killing people left and right. There's, like, this big old massacre scene that was pretty cool. And it goes in a much different route and tone compared to the first two. So I can see why people don't like it, but I find it somewhat entertaining. The new Cenobites are corny looking. Again, that kind of goes with the weird tone that they're going for. And other than that, like, there's some things that are good about it. The acting, once again, shit. A lot of these, the acting's complete shit, but it's okay. It's not the worst. It's definitely a mediocre Hellraiser sequel. It's not nowhere near the worst. I think people always have this one low, Revelations and Part 3, and I guess I'm just the opposite. I like Part 3, and I like Revelations. Sue me, whatever. Hellraiser 3 is pretty decent. It still carries the timeline of the first two somewhat, and we get to explore more of Pinhead's background and how he became Pinhead. I think it was alright. It was interesting. Get to learn his name, and yeah, it's an alright sequel. So Hellraiser 3 is my number 5. Number 4, ironically, I didn't do this on purpose, is number 4, Bloodline. This one has 3 timelines. It goes from the 1800s to present day in the 90s to like the year 2100 something. And where this movie succeeds for me is the present day. I like the shit that goes on then. The future stuff is okay, but the past stuff I didn't care for at all. It tries to explore the history of the Lament configuration. I think this is when it's finally called something other than the box. Because I think in the first 3 it's just called the box, and then they finally give it like a name in part 4. They give us this new demon who's like the counterpart for Pinhead. Like they're working together, but they kind of have like this beef, and it's kind of all over the place, the writing. This is a movie that had 2 directors, so you can kind of see that when you're watching it. Like, yeah, this does feel like it's 2 different visions, and it's very ambitious, the whole story. You got Kim Myers, I believe, from part 2 of Nightmare on Elm Street, aka Meryl Streep. She looks like Meryl Streep. But there's a couple of cool kills in here. There's the most Pinhead out of the whole franchise, I believe. I didn't like timestamp it, but this has the most Pinhead, I believe. It has the most lines from him. A lot of iconic lines about how dare you use that word, I am pain. Lots of great Pinhead moments. So if you love Pinhead and you want to see a lot of him, this is the sequel that you should go watch. So yeah, overall just okay. It's directed by Kevin Yeager and the director of Halloween 6. I forget his name. I'm blanking on it. Joe Chappelle, something like that. Oh, and who could forget the Cenobite dog? Number 3 goes to Judgment. This is the latest sequel, directed and written by the special effects artist Gary J. Tunnicliffe, who has been a part of this franchise since the beginning. And I think this one is definitely the most interesting, especially that first 20 minutes. It opens up with the most crazy, bizarre shit you'll ever see in a movie ever. And it's very balls-to-the-wall crazy. It's vile. It's disgusting. But then it turns into another, once again, like, detective movie script that doesn't feel like a Hellraiser script. But then once you get towards the end, it becomes a Hellraiser movie again. So it's that middle section that I'm not too crazy about. But that beginning, it's very awesome. It's very gnarly. It packs a punch. You're like, whoa, this is going to be interesting. And then it kind of just drops from there. But then once you get towards the end, it becomes alright again. But the whole like story behind the main cop and that twist with him, it's very predictable. You get Heather Langenkamp for 1 minute, if that, like a second. So not even a minute. Like she's in here for 10 seconds. They put all kinds of makeup on her. They make her look like really old and disgusting. And it doesn't look like her at all. Like I had to like rewind it. Be like, wait, that was her? Did not recognize her. This one has a different Pinhead, just like Revelations. But I think this one's a little bit better looking than Pinhead in Revelations. But once again, I'm just not crazy about the voice. For some reason, it just doesn't do it for me. It sounds like something they just Adobe Premiered it and made it sound like 3 decibels deeper than he really was speaking. Whereas Doug Bradley, they never really did much with his voice. There's some sequels where they tampered with it and made it sound more demonic, but in the other sequels, Doug Bradley just uses his voice, and it doesn't sound too demonic. In this one, they try to do that cliche, deep, demonic voice, and it just doesn't work. It also has a lot of callbacks to the first 4 movies, little lines and little winks and nods that are okay. Some of them feel a little forced, but it's just fan service, and I'm okay with it. I like the addition of the auditor played by the director himself. I thought the lines from the Cenobites were very eerie and very inventive, and just I like the way that they were delivered. It just seemed very scary. Just didn't care for the ending. The last 3 minutes aren't necessary. I think it should have just ended with the one cop getting shot and it just ended there. Everything after that, I was like, okay, this is ridiculous. That doesn't make sense. But other than that, alright film. So check it out if you've been iffy on it because you didn't like the last 3 installments. So check out Judgment if you haven't already. Number 2 goes to Inferno. This was the biggest surprise because I thought everything after 3 or 4 was going to be dog shit. But this was a complete surprise. I love the direction by Scott Derrickson. This one has the most creepy imagery and some of the just eeriest shit in it. It has this awful, this premise of like reliving like Groundhog's Day, like your worst day over and over and over again. So instead of like you being tortured by Pinhead like the first movie, it's you get to relive like your mistakes and see all the people you've neglected die over and over and over again forever. So just that ending was just like, oh shit. It had the most impact. It was the most fucking brutal. Like, it's the darkest entry in this series by far. Next to Revelations in the first one, this one's pretty dark. It has some pretty awesome Cenobites. One of my favorites is like the hooker Cenobites, I call them, and they stick their hands in his chest. The skin work there was just amazing. So I love this one. The only thing I didn't care for was the like Asian cowboys. What was that? What did that represent? What was the metaphor there? But I thought this one was pretty good. So highly underrated. Check out Inferno. Is my number 2. And of course, number 1 goes to Clive Barker's original Hellraiser. This is, I believe, his first directing debut. So because he got sick of people not making the movies he wanted from his scripts, so he's like, fuck it, I'll write and direct my own movie. And we got Hellraiser. There's some things that age it, the whole hallway monster. There's sequences that carry on for too long. There's little things that might not be fully explored. Kirsty and her mom, I wanted more there, more explanation why she hates her. She's like, oh, she's a stepmom, I hate her. And this one's very unique. I wish they would have done more with this in the later sequels and maybe expanded upon this one. It did a better sequel. We never got a proper sequel to this movie. Part 2 is not proper. That is not a proper sequel in my opinion. But this movie is basically about love and lust, like what you would do to bring back a loved one, kind of like Pet Sematary, except this person's murdering people, sacrificing flesh to bring back her lover. And I just like that. That's interesting. It's different. You don't see that in other movies. And it introduces the iconic horror icon, Pinhead, the look, the Cenobites, all of them, the Chatterer. I think the Chatterer is my favorite next to Pinhead. And it's just awesome. Like, what can I say about Hellraiser that hasn't already been said? It's got great imagery. I love Robinson, is that his name? Andrew Robinson, the actor. I love him in Child's Play 3. Cobra. He's a dick in that movie. But we got some okay performances in this movie. I don't think Kirsty's that great. She's a little bit better in part 2, but in this one, she's okay. But just the practical effects stand out the most in this one. Bob Keane, who is credited with the special effects in this one, does an amazing job when Frank is being resurrected out of the attic. Awesome stuff. Like, on level with The Thing. Like, that good. But there you have it. There's my ranking of this franchise from worst to best. Let me know yours in the comments below and explain why for each one. Don't just put them all in there. Tell me why you like or hate each one. I'd like to know your thoughts. So, Thank you so much for joining me tonight. Like and share this video with all your friends, and you can become a subscriber today just by clicking on my cartoon face in about 5 seconds. And until next time, auf Wiedersehen.